morning, good afternoon, or perhaps it's evening. My name is Herrica Willis. I'm an attorney at law practicing in Grenada for the past 6 years. As a slight background, I'm also an attorney at law in Jamaica and admitted as a solicitor of the Supreme Court of England and Wales in 2000. Well, I'm here today to inform you of wonderful news. I intend to advise and promote law in Grenada because Grenada matters.
Happy New Year, Herrica. How are you?
Happy New Year to you.
How things been?
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
I said, how have things been?
Things have been fine in sunny Grenada. How is it in cold UK?
Well, it's snowing in London. I'm like an hour and a half away from London, so I wouldn't know. We've got the sun's okay outside. Nice sunny day today. No snow, so we're good. We're all good. We're all good.
Okay.
So fantastic. We have our first live attorney at law show. For those people who still don't know who you are, please give people a very quick overview as to who you are, Herrica.
Okay, my intro was very explicit, but I'm here in Grenada and have been practicing here for 6 years now. Well, I'm in my 7th year. I'm an attorney at law in Jamaica, have practiced in Anguilla also. I'm a solicitor of the Supreme Court of England and Wales since 2000.
Okay. So today, before we continue, the motivating factor as to why you're doing these shows, because you said Grenada matters, but why does it matter? Why does Grenada matter to you?
Well, my office is located in Grenada, where I practice, as I says, for the past 7 years now. And of course, the law in Grenada, just like the OECS, matters. I would like to explain and advise on the law in Grenada, but it can equally apply to the other islands within the OECS. And of course, there are many Grenadans in the diaspora, in the UK, in America, in Canada, and other places where they conduct business in or from or to Grenada.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. So, live show. What's going to be our topic of discussion?
Today, we'll be dealing with a commercial aspect. We're going to look at money laundering, specifically anti-money laundering.
Okay, all right. So the floor is yours, Herrica. Take it away.
Well, of course, everybody would like to know, what is money laundering? Well, it could be easily described as the turning of dirty money into clean money.
Okay.
It is the process of making money earned from criminal activity appear to be from a legitimate source. So, of course, that is why you're turning the dirty money from criminal activity into clean money, legitimate money. Such activities that create this situation are activities generated from prostitution, extortion, drugs, bribery, human trafficking, and of course, terrorist activities.
Okay.
I can give you an example of money laundering. This, of course, involves making small deposits of money over time into accounts. When this occurs, suspicion is usually not aroused because the deposits are small, they're not very large. Large deposits of 10,000 US or more usually attracts attention.
Okay.
So when criminals make money from crime, they use it to invest in another crime. So of course, they hide the money to use or to spend later. Tax evaders, they launder money so that they can lie about where money and assets came from in order to evade tax. The type of business used to launder money, pretty much any cash-intensive business can be used to launder money. But the most usual ones are car dealerships, taxi services, restaurants. It's because these businesses use cash a lot of the time. And they always, in cases of money laundering, they crop up time and time again. Of course, with most things, there's different stages of how you do things. So the 3 stages involved in money laundering. This is, firstly, I'll just say, placement. That's the first one. Layering, and then integration. I will deal with the first one, placement. Well, placement is the movement of cash from its source. This is followed by placing it into circulation through financial institutions. This is cash. Casinos, shops, bureau de change, and other businesses. This could be done locally and abroad. The examples of placement could be the blending of funds. That is best place to hide cash is with lots of other cash. Therefore, financial institutions, banks, etc., can be vehicles for laundering. The alternative is to use money from illicit activities to set up front companies. This enables the funds from illicit activities to be obscured in legal transactions. Another example of placement is asset purchase. I'm talking about cars, paintings, that sort of thing. So you purchase assets with cash in a classic money laundering method. So the major purpose is to change the form of the proceeds, the cash, from conspicuous bulk cash to some equally valuable but less conspicuous form. As I've said, paintings, top-end vehicles. So that is placement, the blending of funds, the purchase of assets. The second one is layering. What is the purpose of layering? Well, it's to make it more difficult to detect and uncover a laundering activity. Layering is meant to make the trailing of illegal proceeds difficult for the law enforcement agencies to find. The better known methods are, firstly, cash converted into monetary instruments. I've mentioned it before. This is the placement within the financial system by way of bank or any other financial institution. That way, the proceeds can then be converted into money instruments. These money instruments involves the use of banker's draft or money orders. A second most popular is material assets brought with cash. Then those assets are quickly sold. These assets that are brought through illicit funds can be resold locally or abroad, and in such a case, the assets become more difficult to trace and thus seize by the law enforcement agencies. The third way, as I've mentioned initially, is integration. This is the movement of previously laundered money into the economy, mainly through the banking system. I mentioned the banking system again. And thus such money appeared to be normal business earnings. This is not dissimilar to layering. For in the integration process, detection and identification of laundered funds is provided through informants. The known methods used are, I have two here, property dealing. That's the sale of property to integrate laundered money back into the economy. This is so common for criminals. They purchase property by cash, or, as I've said, the money is integrated into the banking system and used that way. So, for instance, many criminal groups use shell companies to buy property. Hence, the proceeds from the sale would be considered legitimate by them using these shell companies. And the second most popular is foreign bank complicity. What do I mean by that? Well, money laundering using known foreign banks represents a higher order of sophistication and presents a very difficult target for law enforcement. So the willing assistance of the foreign banks is frequently protected against law enforcement scrutiny. This is not only through criminals, but also by banking laws and regulations of other foreign sovereign countries. So I've mentioned the different stages of money laundering. So let's look at Grenada. Since 2009, Grenada began to assess the various means to achieve compliance with international standards. This is because money laundering is a vast business by criminals. It expands the globe. So, of course, there are international standards for anti-money laundering. This is by way of the Financial Action Task Force, which was established way back in 1989 by a group of 7 at the G7 summit. From that time, from 1989 till now, there's a vast global money laundering and terrorist financial watchdog. That is what the Financial Action Task Force has become. It is also known by its acronym FATF, F-A-T-F in caps. This organization attaches great importance on the fight against corruption, because we all know corruption has the potential to bring catastrophic harm to economic development. This is the fight against organized crime and respect for the law and effective governance. The Financial Action Task Force has 40 recommendations. I won't go through them at the moment, but these recommendations are recommendations for the entire world, I should say. And these are regarded as standards that contain certain core or essential recommendations to fight money laundering crime. As I've said, in Grenada, the main focus was changes in the legal framework. This is to include consolidating previous statutes, legislative amendments to specific laws, and proposals for new legislation. So we have, since 2012, the Proceeds of Crime Act. This is an act which most countries worldwide have enacted. In Grenada, this one was enacted in 2012. And this followed by the Proceeds of Crime Anti-Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Regulations. And of course, the establishment of the Financial Intelligence Unit. At the same time, the Proceeds of Crime Anti-Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Guidelines was issued. These statutes and guidelines, they provide for measures which address a large number of the outstanding recommended actions. And of course, we all know, because of Grenada's geographical location in the Caribbean, It places Grenada in close proximity to the drug shipment routes from Venezuela to the United States and Europe. So, of course, all these Proceeds of Crime Act, etc., are very essential for the economy of Grenada. So, as a narcotics transfer point, money laundering in Grenada is principally connected to smuggling and narcotics trafficking by local organized crime rings. When I'm saying local, I'm not targeting Grenada, but within the Caribbean. This is because illegal proceeds are laundered through a variety of businesses, as well as through the purchase of real estate, boats, jewelry, and cars. So investors may purchase or lease privately owned land and dispose of or transfer their interests into the land under the Grenadan Act, the Alien Land Holding License Act, and the Property Transfer Tax Act. So investors may hold state lands by grant or lease from the state. So foreign and domestic private entities may freely establish, acquire, own, and dispose of interests in business enterprises. I must add, though, Grenada is not a regional financial center. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is the supervisory authority for Grenada commercial banks, who are required to adhere to all the acts I've referred to, and also the Insurance Act and the Money Services Business Act, which was enacted in April 2009. Also must add, I've said that Grenada is not a regional financial center. Neither as it has casinos or internet gaming sites, which are prevalent in the money laundering sphere. Is that clear, Mr. Jones?
Yes, it is clear. So let me put myself back on. It's very clear. Well, let's think about that first point about the casinos. Wasn't it a goal of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell? Wasn't it a goal of his to set up a casino in Grenada?
I think there was signs of that, or when I say signs, it was stated, but I think the churches here are prevalent and would decry casinos and gaming within.
What about a casino on a boat? That's not quite on the island, but on a boat where they can do the casino on the boat itself. That's not quite in Grenada on the sea. I've seen casinos work like that before.
Well, that's not in Grenada per se, is it? Like a building, it's not stationary on a permanent basis.
I did hear some story of that as well, potentially a casino there. On the subject of money laundering, to get back on point, this idea of people leaving or being kicked out of certain countries and coming to like Grenada and being allowed to live on the island of Grenada because they've got big money, but they could also be let's say, they could have been done for money laundering before. Go
Okay,
ahead.
you're referring to the CBI, the Citizen by Investment.
Okay, yes. Talk to me about that.
Right. It is said that could be a vehicle for money laundering.
Yes.
I have mentioned to you the Alien Landholding Act because
Yes.
any individual that is not a citizen must adhere to that act. But I must say that most CBI investors are required to go through authorized law firms who are required to adhere to money laundering regulations.
Okay. So what about tax havens?
Grenada is not considered a tax haven.
Okay. Why would that be the case? Because it's not considered it. Isn't that the best place to come if it's not considered it? Because nobody's eyes are on it. Because people talk about Switzerland and places like that. Their eyes are on those places. Oh, they're money havens. Yeah, they're tax havens. You go there, you'll get tax breaks and all the rest of it. You can hide your money there on a Swiss bank account. So
well, of course, large organizations would get tax breaks.
Yes.
But I believe that is a different matter altogether. Mm-hmm. It could be considered on that way, but I don't want to be classed for defamation. But it's a good point because, yes, as I've said, land, cars, jewelry are the main vehicles to integrate dirty money.
What about charity? Charity.
Yes, you're talking specifically about not-for-profit companies.
Well, yeah, you set up a not-for-profit company and then...
Well, there's stringent rules, of course, where these companies are required to adhere to. But again, adhering to it, complying with it, would be for the individuals who are integrating that company individual into the society of
But okay, but we know that there is one rule for us and another rule for them. When you've got lots and lots of money, money talks. And if money talks, then again.
That is correct. But this is where the Financial Intelligence Unit of Grenada would be called upon to investigate.
You can only investigate in a certain degree if you're A, allowed to investigate, and B, it's worth your while in your best interest to investigate. But if the people investigating are able to pay off your interest in the money is more interesting than the actual investigation, then you get past things. That's how we get corruption, right?
That is correct. And again, it all depends on the players. If you have the same players within the financial system who are charged with protecting the financial system, then there are ways to go around the legislation, so to speak.
All right, for example, you could have, a leader of a country or an island who is allowing money laundering, to set to a point where it's boosting their own back pocket. You understand? So if you say, listen, if you give us X amount of money, we can reroute you into doing what you need to do.
Of course, we know that happens.
That's all you can say about it, isn't it? So you can say, what's the most common in terms of, because this is an area that you're an expert in, correct?
Yes, I've worked in it for many years in the UK.
What's the most common form of money laundering that you've come across in your career?
Through the stock market.
Ooh.
But Grenada does not have a stock market.
Okay.
But that is quite a popular way.
So how would that process work in the stock market, for example? I'm fascinated.
Well, it's the buying and selling of shares in companies.
Right. Okay.
So, as I've said about the three different
Ways of doing the placement, and yeah.
And remember, I've always kept mentioning the banks. You make small. I'm not here to show somebody how to do it.
It's anti-money laundering, and we've made it quite clear in the anti-money laundering, not money laundering. Let's make it very clear.
That's it. But as I was saying, you make small deposits continuously into an account, and then you can use that to buy shares, and then shares have a quick turnover. You have different types of shares. There's arbitrage, different ways, company shares. There's different ways of using the stock market to launder money, to put money in.
So in Grenada, as you say that Grenada doesn't have this and doesn't have that, what are the sort of issues that you would face and have to be come up against in Grenada?
Well, again, we've gone back to it. It's buying property, buying valuable assets, top of the range vehicles, fast turnover, buy it one day, sell it the next.
Yeah, but with that same situation, there are people that I've had situations. I had a situation quite recently, and I was only sending just under £100, small money, £100, and they're trying to flag that for money laundering. They said, no, it's not money laundering. It's just a random check, sir. Nothing to be worried about. I'm like, well, it's £100. It's small. It's really small.
Well, it all depends what you was buying, England.
I was sending.
You were selling.
Sending money. They've got like this is a very good point I'm going to come up to now, because Nigeria has just shut down 95% of the places where you can send money to, like online, send money to Nigeria. Now they've got Western Union, MoneyGram, and one other organization. Other than that, those are the only three companies you could go through now to send money, because they were saying that those other organizations, when they were getting the money, I think somewhere they were turning the money over and they weren't doing it in the currency they should have done it. So therefore they made more money and they made a profit in it. Can you explain that to me, please? Because I think this is a point that maybe you'd be very experienced or would know about.
Well, as I've gone back again.
Yes.
The most important is the little money over time into a certain account. Yes. So you put it, and then you're spending it. You spread it through the system. You're buying things, shares.
So the Central Bank of Nigeria literally shut down 95% of these organizations, so people couldn't send money no more.
Yes, because these organizations you've said, Western Union and so forth, there's a cap on the amount you're allowed to send.
Right.
Because remember, Western Union, you're sending money through all the time.
Yeah.
You don't need to explain. Well, at the other end, you need to explain where it comes from, who it's going to, and they retain all that information to see how much money you're sending over time.
Yeah.
And you have to, after it's a certain amount in Western Union, stop. You're not allowed to send anymore. It's the same when you're receiving the money. You're only allowed to get a specific amount in cash. over a specific amount, they will give you check. And you have to place that check in the bank.
For a period of time.
Be asking all those questions again. But the use of the banking system is to track money. Because in the banking system, they can trace where it comes from, where it's going, where it's moved from. There's a trail. So, of course, in all money laundering, there's always a cap on the amount you can send. And, of course, if you're a company that's always sending money, your bank has to, there's a thing that you need to understand what I shall do a blog on. It's called Know Your Customer. And every organization must know their client or their customer and have certain details on file about these individuals. That way, when certain large transactions or many small transactions come through, they can identify what type of individual and the business they are doing to generate that money. Right. So individuals are worried about being tracked, but their money is also being tracked, not just themselves personally.
Okay.
So this money laundering situation is very hard for individuals who always deal in cash, because it prevents you from dealing in cash, because cash is not easily traceable.
Yes. So you think
and the man in the street always uses cash. That is why the Sou-Sou, the partners,
we're about to talk about that,
are now in problems.
So why is it the government of Grenada wants to tackle people who are doing Sou-Sou? A long traditional line of traditional people have done that. It's done down the years, Sou-Sou. You know what I mean? Grandma, grandpa, great-grandma, the ancestors doing Sou-Sou. A way of people were able to make money or make a bit of money and make money circulate in the community. Why would they attack that now?
It's not that attacking, and it's not just the Grenadian government. It's to prevent criminal activities that depend on large cash transactions. And of course, now these Sou-Sous, these partners, I say partners because in Jamaica, that's what they say, partner. Because of inflation, the size of the Sou-Sou and the partner is getting much larger. And remember I says there's usually a cap. And now the Sou-Sou partners, they're not just a family of friends thing. You can find these Sou-Sous with 30 or 40 individuals in there. So if you're considering that individuals are $200 a month, and there's 40 individuals in that Sou-Sou, that's a vast amount of money.
It's a good community. They've worked well together.
But if you recall, how these Sou-Sous and partners come about is to assist each other to pay their bills.
Yeah, that's what the Sou-Sou was about, wasn't it? To help one another. You know, that was the you know, the basis and foundation of it. Of course, with every foundation and basis, there's always somebody trying to break that rule and accelerate it. And then, but then, okay, what's the difference between progression in Sou-Sou, progression, and then money laundering?
It's the same thing. Well, no, I shouldn't say that.
You can't say that. You can't.
What do you mean by progression? Progression is their larger amounts.
Yeah, well, right. So it used to be 200. It used to be 200 a month. Now it's gone up to 300 a month. 10 years on from now, it's 500 a month.
Well, salaries are not going up, but your debts are. So of course,
So
you can afford to throw $200.
So wait, okay. If the Sou-Sou started and I don't know, I started Sou-Sou when I was 30, right? And now I'm 40 doing Sou-Sou, the money would be the same, would it? Surely.
No, that's surely. What I'm saying. No. I know in the UK, partner Sou-Sous, they're £4,000 to £5,000.
Yeah. That sounds right. Once everyone's chipped in and it's got round to that person, yeah.
So £5,000 in Grenada is nearly 4,000. No,
that's more than that.
1,000 is $3,000.
Oh, so yeah, it's about 10,000. Was it close to 10,000?
Right. Now, do you understand? That's the that would be the limit. If you want to put that $10,000 in the bank. The bank's going to want to know where
I got that money.
Because remember I said there's a cap.
Of course there's a cap, but okay. So watch this situation. Somebody unbeknown to money laundering, and it's just done what they've done, and they've been part of Sou-Sou for years, and it's come round to their point where they get their lump sum. And they say, right, I'm going to put this in the bank. Bang! I put it in the bank. The bank asks questions. Where'd you get the money from? Well, I was part of a Sou-Sou.
Prove it.
But that means I have to go and show and expose all the other people in that organization, all that Sou-Sou. Nah, you can't do that. That's not right.
Now you understand the problem. You understand the problem.
So people have to keep money in their house then, if that's the case, and not put in the bank.
Then the police come for some reason, and they find all that money there.
What's the police coming to your house for?
Any reason?
What, they're going to come around for a cup of tea, are they?
You never know. No, but you're found with that large cachet of money for some reason. This is what's happening. This is real life.
Yes, all right. So then to avoid that, then see, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So if I get £10,000 from Sou-Sou, right, or $10,000 from Sou-Sou, right, I get $10,000 from Sou-Sou. If I put the complete amount in my bank account, I'm gonna look a bit strange. Maybe if I level it out and say, well, if I put $3,000 into my account here and $3,000 into the account there and 3 into another account there, that's 369 grand, and I keep 1,000 on myself. Then what?
Ingram, didn't you hear where I first started off?
I know. That's what I'm saying to you. But listen, I'm a complete innocent. And I've just put money here, put money there, and put money there. What?
That could give rise, unless you can verify where these funds are from. Now you understand where this issue, it has not been resolved as yet.
Not that I've had 10 grand from Sou-Sou, to be honest.
No.
Just let everyone be very clear. I haven't had £10,000 from Sou-Sou.
No, we're just discussing.
So I'm just saying, of course, and that's very hypothetical, but if you did get £10,000 or $10,000, and you've invested money wisely over the while, and you've been dedicated to it, and you've done it, then now you're saying to me that I can't just put that money in my account because questions are going to be asked.
And if you keep it at home and for some reason the police find out it's there, this situation needs to be sat down and discussed. You can't really legislate on it, but there's got to be a decision.
Yeah, but the innocent person always gets it, where the people, the corrupt ones, always get away from it. These systems that don't seem to be in place that help the person that's non-corrupt. These systems seem to be in place that help the corrupt ones get away with it. That's what it seems to be. More and more loopholes for the ones who've got real money. And the ones who don't have the money seem to get punished for it.
It may appear that, but no, they're trying to protect the man on the street. But as you say, it's the man on the street that uses the cash system.
Okay, so let's throw the next one in. A cashless society, which is where they want us to be going. Crash the economy, and have a cashless society.
If there's a cashless society, money is more easily traceable.
So Sou-Sou, what happens with Sou-Sou then?
As you keep coming back, that is something we in the Caribbean have come up against now with this money laundering situation.
And with lockdown, does that make things any easier? Does it make it easier to trace the money now because of lockdown? Because people before were doing things and it was easy for them to come and go and do it. Now they've got lockdown. Obviously, surveillance would be a lot easier and people's patterns would probably be picked up much quicker. And that's what I'm thinking.
No, I don't see the difference. In lockdown, you don't have no money now. That's the only difference, but it shouldn't make any difference to the banking system. It makes it much easier to be paperless, cashless because of lockdown, because there's no face-to-face. You'd be using the banking system much more.
Okay. I can't ask you what the most common way of getting caught in money laundering would be, because that probably would be. Can't do that. But it would be an interesting conversation to know.
It would be interesting.
Yes. Is there anything you want to say in closing today regarding anti-money laundering?
The situation with the Sou-Sou, the partners, need to be resolved because not all individuals will or can use the banking system.
Yeah.
Especially in Grenada. The banking system is very expensive. The charges is not friendly for the man on the street, the vendor who uses cash system. It needs to be simplified. Although there's a cap on the amount you can put in before questions asked, it's still a problem for the man in the street because everyone is forced to use the banking system.
Why?
You put your money in the bank, but you're charged each time you go to take out the money in Grenada. Plus you're charged when you don't use the ATM on a monthly basis.
Yep, that's right.
So if you don't have much money, use the bank for a while and you'll have no
money.
I'll have somebody come down on me for saying this, but it's a fact. So there's a problem for the little man on the street, and
Yes.
that needs to be resolved.
If you were to come up with a solution or potential solution without putting yourself in trouble or deep hot water, what would be your solution to this or potential suggestions?
This goes back again to know your customer, to know who you're dealing with and which type of institution you should put your money in. I think somebody's just piped up and said this is total madness. I would like to know what madness that is.
Yeah, if you could explain what you mean by madness. It might be to do with the Sou-Sou, because you think about all the elderly people that do Sou-Sou. It's just...
Well, there's a purpose, there's a reason why you throw a Sou-Sou. It's to help you.
Of course it is, yeah.
And
that's why I say it's an attack. Because rather than worry about the person who's doing the Sou-Sou, what about all them big-time criminals and corrupt people that get away with this stuff all the time? What about them?
The larger amounts.
Yeah, the real amounts that really these people would never, who get the Sou-Sou, would never amount to ever getting in their lives and just want to get by. Yeah, so leave them alone. That's what I say.
No, well, it's not that easy.
I know it's not that easy.
But there needs to be rules and consideration for I say the man on the street, and I think everyone will realize when I say for man on the street, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, they do charges. That's quite common. The charges. Yeah, they've got it in England as well. You charge on a monthly basis.
In England, are you charged each time you use the ATM?
Depending on what kind of bank account you have. Sometimes you have those bank accounts which are not with the major banks. So you get these MasterCards, which are not attached to a national bank, not a high street bank. So you just bank and then you put your money via the post office. So there's that way you pay, and you can pay your money online. They're debit cards. The other way is
that's different. That's like a credit card.
Yeah, like
normal into your bank account.
Yeah. Same way. And student accounts as well. Like for the first year, I'll say to you, for the first year, here's your account. We're not going to charge you anything on it. But on the second year, we're going to start charging you 50p per or $1.99 per withdrawal, or every time you write a check, we're going to charge you £1, and all this sort of different charges start coming out. Plus your monthly charge for having the money in the account and not being in the account.
These individuals need to change their bank.
I'm telling you, but that happens. See what they do. So what the students do every year, they get the first year free, and as soon as that bank's going to charge them, they change to another bank. They keep changing banks to make sure that doesn't happen. They don't get caught with those charges. That's the way people do it. Mm-hmm. It's very much like telephone providers or mobile phones. Well, look, the charge is going up. I'm gone. I'm going to another provider. That's just what people do.
Yes, but Ingram, you earn your money. Mm-hmm. You put your money in the bank.
Yeah.
For safekeeping. The bank invests your money on their behalf. Mm-hmm. But when you want to draw some out, you're charged to draw your own money out.
That's ridiculous.
As well as normal banking fees. That's not right.
Of course it's not right.
Right, Barbie Queen has just said something. Yes, she's correct. This is the problem, what I'm talking about. Because each month, the bank takes fees. At one time, it was just one fee for the year. But now, as I was saying, each time you withdraw any amount, it could be $50, $20, $100. They charge you. Then you have a book fee. And like Miss Barbie Queen says, you don't have much money. But they take money out each week. You give it to them to safekeeping. But when you're ready for your money, there's no money there.
It's not good.
They should put a cap.
It's not
They
good.
only take certain amount, a cap on the amount they should take from your account.
Well,
I know there's individuals, they haven't been to their bank for ages, for a couple of years, and the bank has taken all their money and they owe the bank.
Yeah, I know that one. I still can't get my head back round. I'm just still thinking of grandma doing Sou-Sou. Grandma doing Sou-Sou and people coming around and giving their money and that thing just to help the community and help everyone. You get a little push, a little push, should I say, a little push to get on, to move on, right? And I'm just thinking to myself, here, Sou-Sou. And I know, like, a lot of women empowerment groups to get women come together and they all put money together in their group to make them to do for their own projects or for their families and stuff. The little, I won't call it a side hustle because that sounds...
No, it's not side hustle because it's hard-earned cash.
Yeah, and they're coming together, they're putting their money together, and they're progressing in their careers. They're doing little things themselves, Home improvements would be, or going on that holiday with a family they probably couldn't afford of doing by themselves, but by doing the Sou-Sou, it's got them all that little arrangement. So it's I don't know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
How they'll be able to track all that, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, then you'll have to start putting limits in people's banks and say, well, you can only have X amount of money in your bank account, and if you put more money than that in your bank account, we want to know why. That's going to deter people from putting money in banks.
Yeah, but something has to be done because the bank's getting richer and the poorer are getting poorer, and they must use the bank.
Well, maybe okay. What about with the African bank? There's a few African banks I'm seeing now in the UK growing now. Would that make a difference? Because they're understanding the mentality. Would they adhere to that, or do you think they would just?
So I must ask, why have you targeted African banks?
Well, I'm saying this particularly because they would understand the Sou-Sou mentality. I don't know. I'm just saying, if you understand the Sou-Sou mentality as opposed to...
I think the Sou-Sou mentality is more for the Caribbean.
Well, that's what I mean. African-owned Caribbean banks, yes. Owned by African people or Caribbean people as opposed to being owned by Westerners with a mentality that understands the Sou-Sou. Do you understand? And they want to help rather than to... When you understand, or you've come from a system and you've seen your grandmother do it, your mother do it, you've benefited from it yourself, and then you're going to go in a position now, you're in a position of power, and then you're going to turn around and say, no, this Sou-Sou stuff has got to stop. And you know that what you're going to do is going to crash that. Whether you'd open a bank that would say, okay, you're doing Sou-Sou, fine, you're on the up, it's clean, we know you're doing Sou-Sou, come and put your money in that way. What about that?
I don't think that will work. The Sou-Sou is unique because the person who holds the Sou-Sou, they're the banker.
Yes, the person, exactly. What I'm saying to you is that if they're a bank that understands the Sou-Sou system and says, okay, you can bank with us, we're not going to punish you for this. Do you understand? As long because you've built a relationship with the bank. So the bank and the grandma can go into the bank and put that money in the account, and nobody's going to think, well, grandma's doing something dodgy here. Do you understand?
Well, there's a problem with that because every bank has to adhere to the same POCA, the Proceeds of Crime Act. No bank or credit institution is exempt. That is the situation.
Again, I just keep feeling sorry for grandma. It just keeps coming seeing grandma.
It needs to be discussed and ironed out. As I said, this is a Caribbean thing, not an African thing. It's a Caribbean thing, the Sou-Sou and the partner. right? The partner in the UK is where most of the people from the Caribbean come, and they find it hard to pay their bills, get jobs, and they throw the Sou-Sou and that to survive. So yes, in the West, where us Caribbean are, the diaspora, yes. Within the Caribbean, definitely it needs to be discussed. But a Sou-Sou, a partner, the hand you throw is a personal thing. Only person that knows is the Sou-Souer, the banker.
Well, this Sou-Sou conversation will continue, and I will come back to it again at some point when we get a development on it.
I will do more research as well to see what way, but I think it needs several individuals to come together within the banking institution to decide how to deal with it.
Do you think it's something that's going to come soon, or do you think it'll be a number of years, or do you think
probably a number of years? It's still, the money laundering legislation is still not all in place. They should be, but there's many things that need to be ironed out.
So does a cashless society wipe out things? Like if we went into a cashless society, then the Sou-Sou system would crash with it as well, wouldn't it?
Definitely, but
that's it.
How would you pay a taxi man? How would you pay a street vendor who's
like how I've paid a taxi man in a minute with a contactless card? That's why we got contactless, right? Contactless. Pow! There's your cashless society.
Try having that in the Caribbean.
Well, they may have made, if the economy crashes, we may have no choice. Well, you could say,
if the economy crashes, then there's no cashless society. You can only survive with cash.
No paper.
Cash is paper.
Well, there will be no more paper. It'll all be on the card.
Can you see Granny with a card?
I couldn't see Granny with a smart TV. Most grannies have a smart TV now. Boom! Take that, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, I understand, but not so easy, Mr. Jones.
I'm sure I'm sure it probably isn't that easy, but if I told you a year ago Grenada's going to go into lockdown, we're going to have a pandemic, and the country's going to get locked down, and you're going to have a curfew, and you have to be in the house for a certain time, you look at me and say I was crazy. It's happened.
Yeah.
If that's possible, then anything else is possible. Trinidad and Tobago is still on lockdown. They still haven't opened up their borders. What is going on? Do you see what
I mean? I think Trinidad and Tobago is in a unique position, or lack of it, because of influx of Venezuelan, I think, isn't it? They were saying.
Okay. Is that what they're saying?
So they're saying the pandemic. I'm not 100% sure. But I think there's problem with the influx of refugees. They're saying that's pushing the pandemic more than the locals.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Miss Willis, as always, thank you so much. Attorney at law, Miss Herrica Willis, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Just a very quick announcement to make before we end. So you can get to see Miss Willis every week, or whenever you want to see her, you can watch her on BWTM online. If you've got our mobile app, check this out.
morning, good afternoon, or perhaps it's evening. My name is Herrica Willis. I'm an attorney at law practicing in Grenada for the past 6 years. As a slight background, I'm also an attorney at law in Jamaica and admitted as a solicitor of the Supreme Court of England and Wales in 2000. Well, I'm here today to inform you of wonderful news. I intend to advise and promote law in Grenada because